Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Encouragement for Moms. And I have a podcast called A Purpose Driven Wife Podcast. And before you guys listen to that, I want to kind of just come in and pop in real quick and just kind of encourage you a little bit before you listen to the podcast that I have prepared. Okay, so in the beginning, the name, the foundation of my podcast is from First Peter chapter 2 verses 9 and 10, and this is the Message version that I'll be reading, and then I'll link the whole scripture in the description box below. But what I really want to pull out from that scripture really quick is the fact that it says, "You are chosen to be holy people, God's instruments to do his work and speak out for him, to tell others of the night and day difference he has made for you, from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted," specifically, okay? But specifically, who I want to talk to is moms, okay? Moms specifically is, sometimes, we tend to get this drive of trying to find out what our purpose is and different things like that. If you're a believer of Jesus Christ, that is your purpose, okay? In glorifying God, you want to be able to tell others of the night and day difference he has made for you, right? Specifically in the scripture, it says from rejected to accepted, and from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted, right? And so for moms, that starts at home, right? That starts at home. And so what you want to do is not only, like your husband or your children, you want to speak to your children first when it comes to how God has been different in your life. Okay. And so I just want to kind of put that out there for a little bit. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that. My daughter's coming. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And so definitely guys, enjoy this video. Not video, but audio of my podcast, and definitely check it out. All the links will be at the bottom below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll check you guys later. About this is your purpose. Now, a lot of people ask, typically in the beginning of the year on what are they going to do with their lives, from here on out, from January on to just until they die, right? And so for this particular podcast or episode, I'm going to be, just piggyback off of the first episode and just going deeper into, a little bit of why I'm doing this podcast, okay? And so, as a Christian, I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I'm also a wife, a mother of 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a blogger, and I'm an author. I am working on a book, and I have been, successfully, blogging and just pouring out just the things that God is dealing with me in my heart. And I just would like to be able to share it with you guys. And so I came across this scripture, and it's 1 Peter 2, verse 9 and 10. Okay. And everything that I'm going to be talking about is going to be on my blog, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com. And this is going to be in the show notes. So, if you haven't gotten the scripture, you can definitely, go back to, my website and get all the information on there. So this is what the scripture says. "But you are the ones chosen by God, chosen for the high calling of priestly work, chosen to be a holy people, God's instruments to do his work and speak out for him, to tell others of the night and day difference he made for you, from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted." That speaks to my heart in so many volumes. I have come a long way. I have definitely come a long way. I've never saw myself as a mother. I've never saw myself as a wife. You know what? Scratch that. I have saw myself as a mother, but as a single mother. My mom is a single mom. She raised the 3 of us. It's me and my 2 brothers, and she was a single mom doing everything by herself. And I've actually thought that I would be, basically the same way, but I didn't want it, but I also did see myself as that as well. And so just a little bit about myself. I'm not going to go into deep details, but just going to give you a little bit of information. I did go in detail in a post that I did on my website, and I will link that in the show notes just to give you a little bit more detail. But here on the podcast, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm originally from New York. I am a city girl. Okay, I'm a city girl, and I'm originally from the Bronx, New York. And my mom, she is originally from Brooklyn. And so, I graduated high school, and I went off to college. I went off to a college in upstate New York. And a friend of mine that I went to high school with, she joined the military, and after graduating military boot camp and things like that, she got in touch with me, and she wanted to hook up and just kind of, meet up with me and have some fun and things like that, right? And so this is the story that I'm telling you. This is just a backdrop of basically how I got saved, how I became a mother and a wife, okay? And so a lot of people always ask my husband and I, how did you guys meet? And you guys seem so happy. Our story is not a story tale, a story, one of those fairy tales is what I'm trying to say. And, it was nothing like that. And so going back to the story, so I met up with my friend. She was in South Carolina. So I flew in from New York to South Carolina, and we had a blast just hanging out, catching up and things like that. And she introduced me to my now husband. And back then, I really thought he was attractive. And basically, just to put it bluntly, we began to sleep with each other. And it just went downhill from there. At the time, I didn't know that, but at the time, I felt like I was having the time of my life. I had money. I was going to school. I was working. I had a little bit of money in the bank, and but I was on my own, just doing my thing, having fun. Then I got pregnant. And so my husband, he wasn't my husband back then, but, he was in the military. And during that time that I got pregnant, he was deploying for 6 months. And so I was so heartbroken. I was so just frustrated. I was angry. I felt abandoned. Number one, I didn't have any idea on how the military lifestyle worked. I was so confused just about, what was going on. And then number three, of course, I felt like everything that I was working towards was just crashing down on me. Like now I just felt like my life is over now, And so from then on, my husband and I, we just began to just really become enemies. We were not in a good place. We were always arguing. We were always, just basically being rude to each other. And so, but in the midst of all that, I wasn't raised in a household that was Christian. I did believe in God, but I categorized Jesus as being, just like all the other gods that everybody else was talking about, like Muhammad and all these other gods that people were talking about. I kind of categorized him as, part of that category, but I didn't know about having a relationship, And so this whole process of me just being a single mom, pregnant, and I had to get out of school. I had to stop working, and I moved from New York to where my mom, she moved from New York to Atlanta. And so that's where I moved with my mom for a little bit after having my babies. After getting pregnant, I did have twins. So my first time ever getting pregnant, I have twins. And so, I did write a story about that. I will also put that in the show notes as well. But I say all of that to say this, that in the midst of all the bad choices that I have made, just sleeping with my husband and just making these bad choices, God was in the midst of, working things out, in order for me to know him, And so after I gave birth, my husband and I, we really began to sit down and say, listen, I don't want to keep arguing with you, and we don't want to keep going at this. We really just want to live, peaceful lives, So my husband and I decided to work it out. And, I eventually moved from my mom's house to living with him in South Carolina. And we, eventually began to work things out, by going to a church home there, and just going to a church there in South Carolina Love House Ministries, I really began to just grow. I mean, God literally just built me from the inside out, you know, and he literally dusted me off and, you know, just literally walked with me, you know, holding my hand through a lot of things that I was just going through, learning how to be a wife, learning how to be a mother, learning how to be a Christ follower all at the same time. And so I say all of that to say this again, that, you know, this is my story, and I am so just have a passion, I'm on fire just to let people know, other women who has walked down that dark path and think that your life is over. You think that nothing good is going to ever happen. And even in the midst of me, you know, just living with my husband, things were not, all a bed of roses during that time. I did lose a child during that time. I did get into a deep depression. You know, some of my hair was falling out. I was losing so much weight where my husband would go on deployment and would come back and wouldn't even recognize me. And so, during that time, I would say that I was learning about Jesus Christ and learning about the relationship, but it was definitely a work in progress. And so I am very purposed in telling people about my story, and that is why I wanted to pull out the scripture and let it be the key foundation of this podcast, because of the fact that God did do a night and day difference in me, and He did turn me from nothing into something, from rejected to accepted. I've never thought that I would be in such a happy place right now, being a mother, being a wife, being an entrepreneur. And there's so much to me to just being a mom and a wife. There's so much more to me than that. Not saying that it's, any lower or higher or anything like that, but there's more to me than that, I am an entrepreneur. I am a writer. I've never thought of myself as a writer. I've written in journals and things like that, and sharing what God has put in my heart. But, I failed English all the time, going in high school and in college. I failed and had to take it over again, and I still get it wrong. And even if you were to go back to my blog, it's not like perfect grammar. And it takes, honestly, it takes about a whole day just for me to creatively sit down and just kind of, write down just the things that's in my heart and let it make sense, and so, literally God is working in me, and this work that He's having me do, I'm so blessed. I'm so happy, and just learning, changing my mindset from, thinking like the world, and partnering up with other people who think the same way, who want the same things, is really important as well. So I'm going to end it here before I start, getting into a tangent and things like that. And so please tune into the next episode and what I will be talking about, the number one key in knowing and finding your purpose. I will be talking about that in my next episode. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And if I did sound like I was rambling, please forgive me. All of the information that I did talk about will be on my website, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com. And if you love what you're hearing, please go to my Facebook page, at A Driven Wife, Facebook.com/adrivenwife, and that is where I will put a lot of my information and what's coming up next, and more episodes of my podcast. And thank you so much for letting me know how much you guys really love it. And also subscribe. I do have a newsletter that's on my website. That's on my blog, where I do talk about, some of the things that's coming up with, on the blog and also on my podcast that I do not tell everybody else. So you will be getting exclusive information and content as well. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Please comment, rate, and definitely subscribe as well. And I look forward to hearing from you. God bless and take care. Bye.